Most of us tend to gravitate towards people who are like us, who maybe think like us, who maybe look like us or believe like us, maybe share the same interests as we do. And sometimes this can be super helpful, like say when you're a writer and you're able to connect with those who share your journey or maybe share your challenges. It's when our differences become exclusive that we begin to have problems. I am Jennifer Slattery from Holy Loved Ministries, and I have seen God's children build massive, unhealthy barriers between themselves. But I've also witnessed the beauty that comes when God's diverse children come together as a united family. Ephesians 1 verses 4-6 says, now this is speaking of everyone reconciled to God through Christ, for he chose us in him before the creation of the world, to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ in accordance with his pleasure and will, to the praise of his glorious grace, which he has freely given us in the one he loves. Chosen to be his holy and blameless child, brought near into a family, bonded by love and grace, bonded by the Father himself. When my husband and I were first married, I felt out of place at every family gathering, at every family reunion. And while I knew technically I belonged, I had a contract stating this after all. I never quite felt like I fit, in part because I didn't always understand his parents and his siblings. They had different traditions, different ways of looking at the world, and they had much more glamorous backgrounds. Whereas I had dropped out of high school and quickly spiraled into homelessness, they all had prestigious degrees, some of them graduate level and prestigious jobs. I thought they judged me, and I'm pretty sure they felt that I judged them. And at first, our interactions were awkward and stilted, oftentimes actually even tense. If I hadn't married my husband, I'm certain none of us would have spent much time together. I would have migrated over to my people over at the campgrounds or maybe the discount grocery stores, while his family would have engaged their friends at the university or maybe the organic juice bars. But over time, held together by the legal contract that bound me to my husband and therefore to his family and he to mine, we learned to merge. We learned to understand one another and even to appreciate our differences. And so much beauty has come from that. In the first century, through Christ, God was doing a similar work. He was uniting two vastly different people groups into one family, bound by grace and the blood of Christ. In this group, this family, this living body, everyone belonged. No one stood out on the fringes. No one was excluded. No one was merely tolerated, or at least they weren't supposed to be. They were chosen to be holy and blameless in Christ. That was their new identity. That was their new position. Whatever they'd been or done prior, that didn't matter. Whatever they thought of one another prior, that didn't matter either. They now belonged to God, who had adopted them legally and relationally, according to his will, and this brought him great pleasure. Regardless of our backgrounds, our cultures, our ethnicity, in Christ, you and I are part of an even greater family. We are to live with unity and with love, with inclusion, with the same tenderness and grace that we show our daughters and our mothers and our siblings. Sometimes our differences might rub up against one another. Sometimes our past might feel hard to shake. But whatever threatens to divide us loses power in light of God's grace. When we live in that reality, we bring our Father great pleasure. And we demonstrate the miraculous, mysterious power of the gospel, a gospel that always unites as together we learn to live wholly loved.